Hello New Writing North young writers, my name's Zoe Murtagh and today's workshop is going to be about poetic description. So the aim of today is to explore some techniques to incorporate some vibrant and interesting description into your work. This workshop speaks mainly to poetry, but a lot of these techniques will be transferable to short stories, fiction, songwriting and all sorts of different forms. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have had some ideas to begin to write a new piece of work. So the first thing you need to do is decide what your poem is going to be about. So if you check out Kema's video, he talks a little bit about how he starts, which is from his past experience or emotions. Equally, Bridget's workshop talks about some things that you feel passionate about. So they might be worth checking out to start generating some ideas. Personally, I write about all sorts of things from the abstract to the really mundane. I write about politics, bake-off, reality TV shows, LGBTQ issues, my cat, so there's really nothing off limits. But what is important is that the subject matter you choose to write about is important to you or evokes some sort of feeling. So just spend a couple of minutes now listing every emotion that you have felt this week. I know that seems massive, but try and just break it down into short words. Have you felt sad, happy, angry, determined, creative, frustrated? Okay, and what you need to do next is alongside these emotions, try and list an action. So maybe this is something that you did. If you were feeling sad, did you run a bath? If you were feeling angry, was it because you'd watched the news? Okay, if you were feeling creative, was it because you'd just had a really good idea that you wanted to explore that felt like a light bulb going off? So try and have a think about what action you might assign to this feeling. Okay, the next thing you want to do is assign a colour to the feeling and try and think outside of the stereotype here. So we know that generally we associate sadness with blue or happiness with yellow, but let's try and shake that up a little bit. What about if in your poem you talk about having a neon pink determination or a cobalt blue frustration or a custardy yellow sadness? So think about using different objects and textures as descriptors rather than the names of colours themselves. Okay, so you should have a good few lists going on now. And the next thing you want to do is you want to think about the journey of your poem. So where does it find us and where does it leave us as a reader? Who is the poem for? Is it just for yourself to process your emotions and what you're feeling, or to talk about something that's important? Or is it to spread a wider message to the world or to inform someone of something? So spend a bit of time now looking at the lists that you've got so far and maybe the metaphors that you've started to construct, and think about what your poem's purpose might be. Okay, the next thing you want to do is you want to have a look at incorporating some of the other senses. So what might sadness smell like? Is it the smell of after the rain stops? What does excitement taste like? Is it popping candy or fizzy pop? Okay, so start to think about how can you integrate as many senses as possible into building this imagery. The final thing to do is begin to collage all of these pieces together. So here you really have free rein to play with the structure, to play with the order, to play with moving words and phrases around. You might be able to find some rhymes that you can experiment with, and really just play with editing and moving and obscuring what you think the poem could be. I had a little go at these exercises in order myself, and I came up with a poem that I decided to call Rest, that I'll read for you now just as an example. Rest. Sleep beckons me like a siren's call, but I am a black cat crossing the road. Custody, lethargy pours out of my arms as I reach once again for a coffee, a book, a time when we could sit face to face and have a conversation that tastes like bourbon biscuits and home. I breathe in the smell of a rejected slumber as my mind rolls around the world, buffering like the powdery blue notification of disconnection. And one day, when the work is done and fire is heard and steel tears are frozen and the glow of a hug swallows us whole, we will rest. Okay, so to write that piece, I started with the emotion, which was the tiredness, lethargy. I listed some actions and examples, so wanting to sleep, having a coffee. I added some colours to it. I talk about the steel tears and the custard yellow. I had a journey that went through it. So we started with this description and we moved a little bit closer towards a resolution. And I tried to play with some of the other senses as well. So that's just an example of how this could work, but really there are so many opportunities to play around with this type of description. If you want to explore some more different poets, I encourage you to check out Travis Alabanza, Paula Varjak, Vanessa Kasule, Holly McNeish, Hera Lindsay Bird, Joelle Taylor, Bridget Aphrodite, Audre Lorde. And if you want any more recommendations, do just drop us a message and one of our writers will get back in touch with you. Thank you so much for taking part. Take care.